at the BRICS and their gold-backed currency as a game changer, I think is only telling half the story. It's missing the other half. I think we live in a world of probabilities. There are no guarantees in anything. And I think the probability of the BRICS trade currency ultimately being used, or rather backed by gold or commodities, as we've heard for a long time now, is legit. Whether or not it comes out August 22nd at the meeting in Johannesburg is another question altogether. But, you know, he said some other things in his writing that to me are even more significant than that. But I want to take a step back for one moment and simply say that to only look at the BRICS and their gold-backed currency as a game changer, I think is only telling half the story. It's missing the other half. And the other half is what Saudi Arabia has been quietly doing over the last several years. For the dollar as being the petrol currency, it didn't remove their reserve status, or it won't immediately remove their reserve status because of our bond market. But what it will do if we lose the petro status is dramatically affect the amount of demand for the dollar, which will ultimately lead to the losing of its reserve status. And so let's just follow the progression here. Saudi Arabia is now, as I mentioned, being protected by Russia in a joint military cooperation agreement. And in signing with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which represents in and of itself 60% of all the Eurasian landmass, 40% of global population. So between the BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Belt Road Initiative, and the Eurasian Economic Union, which we'll talk about also, you have north of 80% of the world's population. That will all be settling trade, unilateral trade with other countries outside the dollar. So the decrease in demand for the dollar as the world reserve settlement currency becomes significant. Now, Jim Rickard said a few things. Forget about the fact that he said that they're going to announce the gold backing August 22nd. If they do, great. But he said some other things to me that were even more relevant. He talked about what the BRICS would do to challenge if they really wanted to challenge for reserve, and that would be to develop a bond market. Now, if you go back to World War II, the U.S. built the bond market by citing patriotism. Buy World War II bonds, they said. Well, in this case, the patriotism amongst all of these countries would be break free from the Western hegemony, buy bonds in a commodity or gold-backed currency. That ultimately will come at some point.
Moving forward, Schectman believes an undeniable and inevitable trend towards gold backing for currencies exists. This momentum is further supported by implementing Basel III regulations, a set of international banking standards to strengthen the global financial system. One crucial aspect of these regulations is the recognition of physically held gold as a Tier 1 asset, meaning it has the same status as cash reserves regarding its stability and value. Schectman expresses that while Western central banks have historically been the primary accumulators of gold reserves, the tides have shifted in recent years. Central banks from non-Western regions, particularly emerging economies and nations within the BRICS grouping, have been actively and quietly increasing their gold holdings. These central banks' strategic approach to gold accumulation signals a growing inclination towards diversifying their reserves away from traditional fiat currencies, most notably the US dollar.
Even if the currency backed by gold is not announced a month from now at this meeting, if they really do coalesce with the Eurasian Economic Union and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, you are dealing with literally the majority of human population. And look where Saudi Arabia has positioned themselves, being protected by Russia and China. Shanghai Cooperation Organization is the largest regional military and financial group in the world. It's Chinese army. So you're being protected with the BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and Russia itself. In essence, two of the three largest nuclear arsenals in the world. And they are striking deals right now with all of these countries to accept, whether it be rupee or ruble or yuan, for energy. And it's not just that. I mean, you're starting to see countries like France and Mexico breaking free from the West as well. Now, France hasn't done it entirely yet, although they asked to go to the meeting and they were turned down. But look, they did a massive liquid natural gas deal, I think with Oman, and paid in yuan. The point I'm getting at here is that you have a situation where little by little by little by little by little by little, all of these things are coming together. And to me, the gold backing is inevitable. And, you know, if you realize that after the Basel III regulations and metal that is held, directly held, that is not paper, if it is physically held, it is tier one. It is as good as cash. And who's been buying it all? Well, the central banks. It's not the Western central banks. It's them over there. They're buying it all. And they're not going to tell us how much they've accumulated. The numbers aren't real. They've been buying and accumulating and producing more than they've ever told anyone. So you put it all together, the pieces are rapidly being put into place. I give Jim credit for announcing a date. It's something I don't have the courage to do, nor the insight. But I don't think it matters if they announce it. If he's right on the coalition growing by the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the Eurasian Economic Union joining BRICS, all of a sudden you have a very formidable foe. Even if at first it is only a settlement currency, not a reserve currency. If I were doing this, settlement would be first, reserve would be second. But if everyone continues to settle not in the dollar's demand goes down, the supply goes up, the value goes down, inflation goes up, interest rates go up. We get there the same way. And look, the Chinese and all of these countries who still own our stocks and our bonds, and well, they have a vested interest in slowly removing themselves from this. And all the dollar denominated debt has to be paid in dollars. You might even see the dollar go up at first. But in the end, this is a trend, I think, that will ultimately be very negative for the US dollar, irrespective of the announcement on the 22nd.
The BRICS nations are rumored to introduce a gold-backed currency, indicating a shift away from traditional fiat currencies, including the US dollar, as the dominant global reserve currency. In such a scenario, gold, a tangible and historically trusted asset, can be a valuable hedge against potential currency fluctuations and devaluation.